千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. As always, I want to extend my welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we are ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. Let's think about how we apply this concept, blunt the sharpness, into living our lives. So we transform from the Tao to our application of the Tao internally and externally. We'll start out with the internal, that is, the mindset. What's happening with our thoughts? So you can see here that we've identified the three poisons. The three poisons are a concept that comes from Buddhism. They are greed, anger, and ignorance. They definitely qualify as the sharpness that is within us, as part of the personality that we started with. They are not just like the sharp edges of rocks or mountain peaks. They can be more like sharp knives. What I mean by that is even before these knives cut other people, they cause internal injury to ourselves. When I compare greed, anger, and ignorance to knives, the metaphor is that occasionally people use these knives, the knives of anger, the knives of ignorance or greed, and they cause damage to others. But because these sharp knives are not sheathed within, even before that happens, you've already cut yourself. So if you are curious about the concept of the three poisons, there's a more extensive discussion about them that can be found in my book, The Tao of Tranquility. It is all in chapter 4 of that book. So the Tao can help us in recognizing these poisons and can help us with transformation. So let me point out that the poisons may be the most apparent with anger. As I mentioned, even before you lash out at someone with an angry outburst, you've already been cooked by the anger because the anger has caused you suffering. A lot of times we talk about getting hot under the collar. We talk about someone having steam come out of his ears. Of course, we don't mean that literally. We're saying that this person is basically boiled in his own anger. It's like a fire within that burns you first. So then, what is harmful internally is also harmful externally. We'll get to that. When we see the poisons as they are, we begin the process of blunting them. It's like seeing a rock with many sharp edges and then put that in the river to let the river work with the Tao process to smooth it out. So let's also talk about the external. Let's talk about what happens with the sharpness in the external environment. When we have the sharp edges of these negative thoughts, one obvious manifestation externally is we tend to start interfering with other people. We criticize them. We won't leave them alone. We just want to continue getting on their case. We know from experience that this kind of sharpness can alienate people, cause them to not want to be around us. It can even cause contention. But I think you know, and I know, that sometimes we can't help ourselves. Part of that may be because of the lack of awareness of the Tao, that we haven't used the Tao to blunt the edge. Therefore, we suffer from the cutting edge. So in using the Tao to blunt this edge, we can bring about more harmony. As this applies to the three poisons, let's take a look and think about how it happens in our lives. With greed, the Tao helps us manage our desires. We learn the Tao, we study the Tao to figure out the true meaning of contentment, to let go of clutter. These practices have an effect to blunt the edge of greed. When it comes to anger, we learn how to manage our internal states. We learn about calmness, about being composed. We learn that anger actually comes from fear. And when we face down that fear, when we deal with it directly, we can dissipate the anger naturally. And what about ignorance? Well, in the Tao, we learn how to learn. In the Tao, we learn about why we should learn. We also learn about how we should apply what we learn. It is the crucial process of turning book knowledge to living knowledge. And finally, we combine the internal with the external. We can engage in introspection to think about what we need to change to affect our external reality. Example, changing our perspective, shifting the perspective so that instead of seeking faults leading to anger, we can look instead for the positive, leading to appreciation and gratitude. We can reflect within and manifest externally habits. Our internal states may surface as negative patterns in life, and this can be inclusive of addictive behavior. We can learn about that, understand them, and then bring about change by cultivating positive patterns to replace the negative ones gradually over time. That too is the Tao process at work. So now I think everyone can see that there's a huge amount of depth in the simple words, just a few characters from Lao Tzu. These are the things that Tao cultivators talk about one generation after the next. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.